everybody, and welcome back to the Zodcast. Today is Saturday, January 23rd. Today's my sister's birthday. Happy birthday, Jen. Hopefully you're watching. This will be episode 16. Not much from the mailbag other than Professor Stewart had made a comment in the comment section on the last video, pointing to my attention the videos done by Dr. David Van Nuys, who's a psychologist, and he did some Zodiac profiles since we were talking about that on the last Zodcast, and I did watch a lot of those. They're really good. I think the one that has the most concise Zodiac profile in it is the one that is number 14 by Dr. Van Nuys. And I think that one's really good. So I just took some notes on that. He does have a playlist of all of them. There's quite a few of them. So the best way to, if you want to listen to all of those, is to use this playlist. But he gives a pretty good profile of Zodiac, real similar to the ones that I talked about last time, which were from Michael Cole's new book, of course. And speaking of Michael Cole's new book, Ned over at Black Box Radio is going to do an episode on book 3 from Michael Cole's book that I talked about as well. So I'm really looking forward to hearing Ned's take on that book, and I'm sure that's going to be really good. I think he said he'd probably have that up by Monday, so definitely check that out on Black Box Online Radio. But anyway, episode 14, Dr. Van Nuys talks about how Zodiac probably had some pretty steady employment because he could buy guns and had a reliable income. Stocky individual, he said. Obviously that comes from the letters, and he thinks the Zodiac was lonely and a loner. And that could apply to John Cheney. He was married and had kids, but from what I could tell, he wasn't around them that much. He was working, going on long hunting trips. Later became estranged from his 2 children. He did later officially divorce his wife, but they were estranged for a long time before they officially got divorced. I think his kids moved back to the East Coast when they were pretty young. I mean, not even teenagers yet. I don't think either one was even a teenager yet before he became estranged from his family. So he could fit into that. And I think Dr. Van Nuys also mentioned that he was, I think, kind of wannabe military. And Michael Cole also mentioned that in his book, Zodiac Revisited, where he thought the Zodiac Killer was probably more of, instead of official military, more like a military wannabe. Of course, Don was in the Air Force for 2 years, but he didn't continue that, which is unusual. To go to that flight training and not to continue it after 2 years is very unusual. I saw where one class, I think maybe a year or two after the one Don was in Harlingen Air Force Base, that 96% of the class went on to be career Air Force. So that's a really high number. So I don't know what happened to Don there. Something definitely happened. I mean, it could be the same reason he never seemed to hold a job for a long time. And that's another thing that Michael Cole brings up in his book. Whoever the Zodiac was really preoccupied with doing the ciphers, the letters, not getting caught, and then keeping down a full-time job. Imagine how that would be. I mean, you would need a lot of free time to sit there, write those ciphers out where they're neatly uniform, which, of course, you know how I think they were done, over a light table with graph paper below the regular paper to make all the symbols uniform, which obviously Don knew how to draft, so we know that. So it is interesting. Anyway, going back to Dr. David Van Nuys, but again, number 14 of his videos, I think, has the most in it. I think he kind of talked about the Kathleen Johns deal, which was kind of interesting. He says that he doesn't feel that the Zodiac had a wife or children. Of course, Don Cheney did, as we just mentioned. But it is worth definitely looking, checking out. I think he's got a pretty good profile there. A really smart guy, and he made those a long time ago. But thanks again to Professor Stewart for pointing that out. And then just a little housekeeping item. I won't say who, but some anonymous person, wrote something about my Zodiac book and said that I don't know what I'm talking about because I said that the Blue Rock Springs attack happened on July 4th of 1969. Well, last I checked, that did happen on July 4th, 1969, to whoever this moron is, and he's telling me it's July 5th. Well, that's really splitting hairs, because if you get into that, they know that Darlene Farron and Michael Mougeot pulled into Blue Rock Springs Park on the night of July 4th, because they were celebrating. They actually had gone out looking for fireworks before they had pulled into the park. And by most accounts, that was before midnight. Now, we probably don't know exactly when they were shot, but I know that the 3 kids that came in that found them came into the park somewhere just at midnight. So I know Mike Mageau was outside of the car laying, yelling for help, or, he's not yelling, but he was definitely in pain, and they found him. And I believe the phone call made by the kids to call the police was made at 12:10. Obviously, that's July 5th now, but this guy's splitting hairs with me that I don't know what I'm talking about, because I called that crime a July 4th crime, which it was the evening of July 4th. What an idiot. What a total idiot. And if that guy shows up on any of these messages, bring it, okay? This guy's a moron. And there's always some expert out there. I mean, I can take criticism, but that kind of splitting hairs is ridiculous. But anyway, I digress. Wish that guy was listening so he could hear that. But anyway, some new things that I've been thinking about just with this stuff, in general, was going back, of course, to the honeypot I call the video. His name was Arthur Lee Allen. Now, we know in the video that Don Chaney mentions the part, or they talk about the part where Don says that he licked Arthur Lee Allen's stamps. And I was thinking about that because it's the crux of everything. Why would this guy claim he licked Allen's stamps for him? And sometimes you'll see things on the internet where it claims kids in the neighborhood would lick Arthur Lee Allen's stamps because he didn't like the taste of glue. That's all nonsense. There's not one credible source of neighborhood kids licking his stamps. Ron Allen never said it. Karen Allen never said it. It doesn't exist. And if somebody thinks it does, email it to me. It doesn't exist. There's no hard evidence that was ever said. That's gray smithing, okay? Doesn't exist. So anyway, back to Don. Don claimed that he licked Allen's stamps. And, I think that came out sometime around 2003 when he claimed that, because that's when they were going to test Arthur Lee Allen's DNA. Arthur Lee Allen died in 2002. I'm not sure when they started making His Name Was Arthur Lee Allen, but it came out in early 2007. So anyway, it is strange that Don says that in His Name Was Arthur Lee Allen. He, of course, brings up the licking of the stamps because he said Arthur Lee Allen was writing thank you notes for Christmas gifts he got for the Christmas prior to New Year's Day, 1969, when he supposedly told Don Chaney that he wanted to become the Zodiac Killer and all this stuff, and then later drove him around to Blue Rock Springs and then Lake Herman Road. Well, what people don't ever think about much is the letters Don's worried about weren't even written yet. It's New Year's Day, 1969. The first Zodiac letters don't show up until the beginning of August 1969. And, they were written after Blue Rock Springs attack on July 4th. Sorry, dude out there, it's not the 5th, but, whatever. But anyway, those letters aren't even written until July. And obviously, in the debut of Zodiac Letters, which were the 3 letters that accompanied the 3-part cipher. And he references Blue Rock Springs attack. So we know that letter wasn't even written until July. So just think about that. Chaney's already covering himself for claiming he licked Allen's stamps for letters that haven't even been written yet. So he's already shown to be a liar there, because Bauer should have known that when he first claimed that. It says, well, Don, what are you licking his stamps for his Christmas card thank yous, and on January 1st, 1969 have to do with anything? The letters that they're testing the DNA on, actually it was one of the Paul Stein letters that had a piece of Paul Stein's bloody shirt in it. I don't know, I think that one was written in September of 69, way after New Year's Day of 69, and Don's claiming he's licking the Christmas cards. It's like no one ever thinks about the fact that the letters he's worried about haven't even been written yet. So that's interesting, because, of course, Don claimed that he never talked to Arthur Lee Allen again after New Year's Day, 1969. Another thing I was thinking about again is this stuff about Don Chaney and the Arthur Lee Allen molestation attempt on Chaney's daughter. Now, we know that Chaney said that this alleged incident happened in 1967. Well, I know that Don Chaney's daughter was born at the end of 1963. So at the time, that put her about 3 or 4 years old in 1967, which would have been highly out of character even for Arthur Lee Allen. And remember, this incident was denied by Chaney's daughter as an adult to Tom Voigt. So I have no idea why she would deny that happened. It was, he touched her bottom is the incident. It didn't go any further than that, and that's according to Don Chaney. Now, at the time, and I pointed this out before, Don Chaney did tell his other friend, Ron Allen, Arthur Lee Allen's younger brother, and Karen Allen, his Arthur Lee Allen's sister-in-law, Ron's wife, that this incident took place. And I think that is true. And I'm thinking, why would Don do that if it didn't actually happen? And the more I thought about it was, it's brilliant. It's a fallback, because I always believed that Don always planned to insert himself into this case that he created by being the Zodiac Killer. And if he did get caught, he could claim, or at least caught enough, he could claim that, yeah, it was revenge, or at least caught for the part of trying to frame Arthur Lee Allen. Maybe they dig into Allen far enough and they can't find anything on him, which they never did. And Don could just claim, yeah, I was mad. He tried to molest my daughter. I'm sorry. I know this is a big investigation. I probably screwed that up. Maybe he gets an accessory charge or something like that. But it's a good fallback. You know, hey, you caught me. I think my friend was it. I was mad at him for this attempt. Maybe it was just a fallback position if the police were able to totally, completely, obviously clear Arthur Lee Allen somehow. Maybe someone else saw him the day of Lake Berryessa or another attack, or just something that would concretely point to the fact that Arthur Lee Allen absolutely could not have been the Zodiac Killer. And then Don could just say, yeah, the guy tried to molest my daughter. He touched her bottom. I told his brother and his sister-in-law at the time that this incident had happened, and I'm sorry. I'm sure I'm going to get into some form of jail time for trying to screw up an investigation of a serial killer, but I'm not the Zodiac, and apparently neither is Arthur Lee Allen, but that's my excuse. So I really do. I think that was like a fallback for him. That's why he told Ron and Karen Allen at the time. And if Don was so upset, why didn't he call the police? He never did. Now, another thing I pick up from going back to the honeypot, which is his name was Arthur Lee Allen video, Don Chaney says again about how Allen is telling him about how he wants to be the Zodiac Killer, this, and that. And Don says something, I'm paraphrasing, back to Arthur Lee Allen. He goes, you need to think long and hard if you're really considering doing this. And Arthur Lee Allen's response back to Don Chaney was, well, it's too late for that. So here he's telling him this stuff on, supposedly, according to Don, January 1st, 1969. Remember, this is just not even 2 weeks after the Lake Herman Road shootings that didn't happen far away at all over in Benicia by Vallejo. And this conversation's taking place in ground zero of Vallejo. And apparently Don's not aware of this and says that Arthur Lee Allen just claimed to him that it's too late for that. Like he's already murdered. But yet, Don waits till July of 1971 to finally come forward through Sandy Panzarella, his friend and boss at the time, of his allegations of Arthur Lee Allen being the Zodiac Killer, after Don reads in the newspaper the Zodiac letter about wanting to pick off the kiddies as they come, or little darlings, as Don says, as they come bouncing off the bus. So think of that. Why would he do that? I mean, Don is giving himself away so many ways in that video of who he really is and how much he really knows about these crimes. So just another one to take into account there. So I wanted to pick up on another thing I saw on Black Box Online Radio that someone had written Ned about Ross Sullivan not being exactly 6'2" or 300 pounds. He might have been smaller before the Zodiac crimes, and everybody's always harping on how big Sullivan is. Well, sorry, he was that big. If you look at the Santa Cruz newspaper article that came out in 1967, I mean, that's definitely before the first Zodiac attack in December of 68. It says bizarre behavior leads to arrest. And it's talking about here, you can read it. It says 26-year-old Riverside man into custody yesterday afternoon after he cavorted in the nude in a telephone booth. And it says he was in a dazed trance. It's quoted here. And it makes sure that the article mentions that the naked man, who was 6 feet 2 inches tall and weighed 300 pounds. That is Ross Sullivan. No one denies that they're talking about in that newspaper article. Ross Sullivan was every bit of 300 pounds and 6'2" before the Zodiac crimes. Unless he went to Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers after this, he was probably at least that big during the first Zodiac crime. So sorry, try again on anyone that's still trying to defend this guy. And also, and I took this little snippet from the Quester files from that guy, Gian Quasar. I actually like his stuff. And he's got some other Zodiac suspect that he calls Steve or something that he's starting to write a book about. And some of the chapters on there I really like. But anyway, I took this little piece from him. And this is discussing the Wing Walker shoe print left at Lake Berryessa. And this says, Yet this weight thing on the Zodiac is not entirely subjective. Footprints were left near Hartnell's Carmen Gia and at intervals along the path to the peninsula. Detective Sergeant Al Snook, the forensics man, measured, studied, and cast some. It eventually turned out that the person wearing the boots that made these prints was probably around 210 to 220 pounds. They definitely seemed to belong to the Zodiac. They were found by the passenger side door where he had to stand to write on the car door. The prints showed that they came from a military boot called a wing walker. They were size 10 and a half. So there you have it. We're looking for a stocky guy around 210 to 220 pounds. So that really hurts all these skinny suspects because you could talk about them wearing thicker clothes, but they're not going to put them up in the 210, 220 range. And as far as Ross Sullivan goes at 300 pounds, that depression would have been seen when they cast that wing walker boot print. Plus, it's 6'2", to have a 10 and a half size shoe would be pretty small for a guy 6'2". I don't know what Ross Sullivan's shoe size was, but I'll bet the farm that it's bigger than a 10 and a half size. So thanks for watching. Please like or dislike. You know who you are. Thank you.